Hello everyone again. So we are continuing our journey in this borderless GS conference. So we had several talks already, right? We had brilliant discussion about the ES new features from Mikhail from Amsterdam. Then we jumped to AI things covered by Andrei from Kiev. Then Michael and John from China elaborated more on automation. And now over the ocean to the United States, to Charlotte City, where you will hear more about how you can actually improve your career. So, what do we have here? So, the talk is called Building Your Career with JavaScript. Why you probably got it wrong. So, in the nutshell, it is about building your career in the right way. So, how you can be true T-shaped developer? How can you truly make the difference to the business? And how can you actually integrate all the things that are currently available on the market in your own portfolio? So, over the ocean to Vladlen. Vladlen, please proceed.
Hello, and welcome. Let me share my screen here. So nice to be here. It's almost 10 a.m., huh? But hey, uh,
Good
hello.
morning.
Yeah, good morning. To be honest, I'm still sleeping here. uh, but anyway, let's start. We have the first day, right, of a borderless JavaScript global conference, right? And I'm really glad to have you all here because you could have been anywhere, but you're here with us, and I appreciate it. And if you're watching this as a recording, don't forget to like and subscribe. And even if you don't, still like and subscribe. Um, I go by Vlad Fedeso. Nice to meet you all. I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes, right? So before we start, let me say just a few words about myself to try to gain some credibility in front of you. I'm based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Spent my work as a solution architect here at EPAM, as well as many other companies. I clocked more than 12 hours of experience in front end, back end, DevOps, mobile architecture. Really passionate about that. And at the same time, I had a chance to work on, cover, and design pretty much every part of the SDLC. Yeah, in case you forgot what the talk is about, right? That's about building a JS. That is the fancy slide. This is the less fancy one. Okay. Anyway, let's continue, right? Been working basically with pretty much every part of the SDLC process. Been working in product companies, outsource companies, consulting companies, a big tech one. Hopefully that does add some credibility, right? So, but enough with the intro, right? Today we'll be talking about career development with JavaScript and why you probably got it wrong. And I have that opinion because I talk often to different, mostly JavaScript engineers, right? And I'm like, hey, but well, have you thought about this and that? And like that would really, set you up for a huge success. And again, don't forget to ask questions in the end if you will have them. And I think we will maybe have some cookies for those who ask, or maybe don't. Okay. And on this note, let's start with the harsh reality, right? Everyone can write JavaScript these days, like everyone. So it's time for you to wake up and find yourself on a highly competitive market. And when I say it's competitive, it is, because let's look at the numbers real quick. So in 2023, 2024, about 65% of professional engineers worked extensively with JavaScript, according to the 2024 developer survey by Stack Overflow. And about 45% worked with TypeScript. Means that on the job market, you'll be competing with pretty much everyone. This is harsh. And let's be honest here, if you do only front end, and especially if you only know one or two frameworks, like for example, just the Angular is your primary framework, and you never built a complex application from the ground up, and you lack a real good understanding of how to do the vanilla JavaScript for complex projects, like for the low-level libraries that the project may require, you're quite easily replaceable by someone with lower salary expectations or a contractor. Fair to say there is an exception to this rule. If you live and work in a low-cost location, like the Eastern Europe or the Colombia or Mexico, you may not feel it yet, right? However, it's just a matter of time before it's going to hit you. And here is another sobering fact. We are at the end of the median salary report. It's at 11th place, right? We can do better. So, shall we panic here? Uh, yeah, yes and no. So JavaScript is still in a very, very high demand, right? Pretty much everyone needs JavaScript, needs to know JavaScript. Fortunately, everyone already knows it, right? And it is and it will be a backbone of an internet. However, it doesn't make JavaScript engineers a low supply resource, and so it doesn't really drive our salaries up. So, what can we do in this situation? Shall we start frantically learning new technologies? Uh, so, the answer to this is yes and no. Key to the successful career is to know to be an how to be not just a JavaScript engineer, but just an engineer, right? Let's try to talk about this, and I'll try to elaborate. So first, right, try answering a question. Can I really develop a simplest solution to my client, like end to end? Like, well, be alone or in a pair with some other fella, or as a lead engineer of a small team? Can I do this? Or have I done it already? Like really end to end from an idea to the production. Let me explain. So, any fairly complex project requires involvement of a huge number of different professionals, right? It's like if you're building a house, you need a plumber, you need, you need a valve specialist, you need, roofers, carpenters, etc. Don't know how to build how the houses are built, right? So the same as in software engineering. For sure, you don't need to be able to know all these traits, but you must be able to be aware of them, know how to efficiently work side by side with them, and in case needed, be flexible enough to fill the gap. This is what will really set you apart. Let's, for example, say that the backend engineer is on a sick leave or an emergency leave, right? And an important feature is blocked, right? It's important for the client, it's important for the project. We are doing like an MVP. Of course, everyone else is busy with other important work, right? So JavaScript engineer would say, hey, I'm blocked, right? Going for a coffee. Who wants more, right? Just an engineer would raise a flag because this is what we need to do, because maybe that's not the only option on the table, right? But if it is, right, let's try to fill the gap, right? Let's try to figure maybe that backend not that complicated, and you can do a couple line change and and just be with it and unblock the feature, because in many cases it's just what it is. All those changes, they are not really complex. Of course, not always, but right. The point is that we are not trying to solve every use case here. We're just aiming for majority. And again, in this list, I'm not even mentioning the actual business development roles like the marketing, the sales, the ads, the product management, the business intelligence, etc. Right? So it's just like engineering focus list. Okay, but let's try to make our example like real simple, right? Let's say we just need to develop a simple web application that would allow your client employees to control their suite of products via convenient UI. So we still have kind of long list left here, right? So even more for such a simple projects, clients don't usually have millions of dollars on a budget. You'll likely have a small team of people to fill all these roles, right? And we have a lot of them. This is when full stack engineers, as well as the leaders who can do project management and team organization, come real handy. And it's actually real hard to find those that can play multiple roles and so allow to have smaller budgets on the small to mid-sized projects. Also, like as an example, pay attention here to the crossed out system engineer role, right? So if you're doing something that would require system engineering and you don't have a budget for a dedicated system engineer, guess who will likely be forced to fill the gap there, right? Maybe with the other system engineers help who would have the small part-time involvement, but still, right? So if you can take away one thing here, right? Um, Take away this one, right? I know it's hard that it's hard to get an experience in adjacent areas, but it's not impossible, right? A few weeks ago, I had no idea about system level programming within an AOSP, which stands for the Android Open Source Project, uh, basically Android operating system, right? Now I'm working on a feature for a wearable device. I would never able, uh, even dreamed about that or thought about this. Like I was like, okay, yeah, it works, it works. I mean, I don't care. Okay, now it's fascinating, right? I got that experience, and I'm like, whoa, it's like in that picture, whoa, it's like so complex. And all I did, I just volunteered when we had the lack of resources here there. In our case, the lack of system engineers. They just said, oh, sorry, we are overloaded, we cannot really help you. We can give you an advice, but this is pretty much it. And all you need to do in such situations is to pay attention and offer help to your mates. And I can promise that they will appreciate it, and everyone will appreciate you. And then again, that will set you apart, and you will receive new, useful, and sometimes really unique experience that you will carry on, you know, in your life. Okay. I think, again, none of us has an illusion that we are paid for the lines of code, right? So some of us may think that we are here to solve problems, and it's true partially. But I believe most of us know that um, the correctly set question or problem sets you halfway towards finding a solution, right? So those of us the most valuable who can not only solve problems, but they can actually bring value by identifying and preventing the problems, as well as setting strategy for the future, right? It's again, let's do tiny little step forward from tiny little step extra from comparing to what everyone does. And that's also funny that pretty much everyone here, right? We all carry a software engineer or something similar kind of title at work, right? But let's be honest here, how many of you can honestly check all these three boxes on the right side of the picture? How often do we really do innovation and research? How often do we participate in system design sessions? How often do we do real complex engineering, right? Again, I believe we all know that a lot of work is a mundane thing. I mean, a big portion of work is a mundane thing, right? We do in this form, that button, another form, another button, right? This is not something that drives your career forward or drives your knowledge forward. What really drives it is a participation in a solution of a real complex engineering problem, or participation in a spike that aims to solve a real complex problem. That's going to be the innovation and research, or the design of a new feature from a ground up on your project. That what brings real knowledge and real value to your career. So please do that, right? I and again, to do that successfully, please, I beg you, learn software engineering theory, read books. I know from experience that we have a lot of engineers who read only like one or two books, and then they switch to framework documentation and the articles and like, all that stuff. But it's really not enough beyond lower levels of the career staircase, right? Um, just recently, I had an interview with a QA engineer, and we had a great talk, and he was great from the practical standpoint. But as we started like going through the theory, like he just started grumbling, and I was like, "Hey, mate, like, can you honestly answer like how many books you read in your life about this theory?" And he was like zero. And I was like, "Oh, geez, yeah, that it's really visible. Can you read just one book, and with your practical knowledge, you will be just perfect for this role. But without this theory, I mean, right, you're like crawling in the dark. Maybe you will be right, maybe you will be not right, but the thing is that you never know, right? So please do learn the system design, the architecture, all that theoretical stuff. It will pay off at the end, because things will start making sense to you, like why this scene was done, or that scene was done this way or that way. It will all start to make sense for you. We already talked about this subject, but just wanted to kind of to reiterate, right? um, I always struggle to answer, like when people like, my friends, or like folks that are yet to be a friends, ask me like, what kind of engineer you are, programmer you are, whatever, like, hey, who are you? I'm in the IT. Okay, what do you do? Like, and I'm like, what do I do? Like, it's hard to answer, right? I did web, I did mobile, I did DevOps, I did infrastructure. I did I didn't do many different frameworks and languages. Some of them people are not aware about, right? And I often ask myself, like, how did it happen that I got to work with so many different tools in many areas? Was I simply lucky? Um, Probably, but I also stayed hungry to new challenges. Get me wrong here, right? I hate when people work overtime. Like, I really hate it. I don't like it. I don't appreciate it, and I always try to avoid it, right? Because, but this often poses a dilemma. Like, how do you get new skills on a mundane project? Let's think here. First, you can simply finish early and do a bit of extra. Second, you can and you need to take hard tasks, ask and fight for them, and then deliver. And it doesn't mean that you need to imagine problems and or offer overcomplicated, over-engineered solutions. No, but it never hurts to take a fresh look at the long-lasting challenges every project has and just go and try to solve them. And of course, you can always change the project you are working on. If again, if it's um, if it's possible in your particular situation, right? Or for example, if the project is too easy for you, maybe that's probably a signal that you need to move on. Um, I'll, I'll just keep silence for a second. I mean, it's it's such a good tool to get new knowledge and new experience, learn in a practical way, build confidence, build your network of a professional contacts, uh, learn, get a chance to work with such a brilliant people, because often people who lead open source projects, they're just like on such a level that you're like, geez, this is like 10 steps, you're like 10 steps ahead of me. Like, man, how do you do that, right? That's like, how did you even come to this, right? um and you're getting that experience, and and you're skipping the stairs, right? In your experience, in your career, right? You're just jumping through them because you had a chance to work with the brilliant people and you learned something brilliant from them. Please contribute to open source. It's really, really important, especially in 2024 if you're applying a CV to a new role and you don't have your GitHub profile. Like when the interviewer asks, like, okay, can you show me your GitHub profile? And you're like, I don't have it, or I forgot the password. You know, geez, I mean, and it doesn't mean that you need to do it like daily or weekly, right? Please do it at least a couple times a year. That would be mostly enough, right? So why you probably got your career with JavaScript wrong? Because it's not about JavaScript at all. It's about evolving your engineering skills and tackling complex challenges. And yes, it sounds obvious, but it is what it is. And on this bombshell, thank you for listening. Now go and please act. Thank you, everyone. Like, subscribe.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna do like and subscribe. Thank you, Vlad, for this talk. Really inspiring one. We do have a question though. I assume that you actually covered this question actually. So the question was the basic idea of the talk to take more responsibility and hope you won't be fired at least. So I assume that you did answer this question actually throughout your takeaways. So if you don't mind, and of course, if the audience don't mind as well, so how about you go over things that most likely you have to avoid, right? You shared best practices that people should do, right? But could you tell at least like three things JavaScript developers should really do in order to bring their career to the next level? Possibly like red flags things. Right.
Right. So it's like shouldn't do, right? Shouldn't do.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
Like
Okay.
worst practices from your
What
side.
worst practices? Okay, taking too much overtimes. That's the worst practice. Working
Okay.
overtime. That's a real bad one. Please don't do it. Please try to avoid that because it leads to you being like sloppy, out of your rest, and then you make mistakes, right?
Okay. Okay. Next one.
Um, the second one would be please don't cut corners. Like, do not cut corners, right? Don't try to do things like, oh, I'm gonna fix this later, or hey, I'm gonna you know improve this solution later, etc., without telling everyone, right? Cutting corners is acceptable if you're creating follow-up tasks for backlog, you're planning for this, accounting for that, then it's transparent, right?
Hmm.
And and then the last, but I believe this is like the most important, like don't be a jerk. Don't think that you're like above above everyone, that you're the smartass, right? Everyone is, trying their best, right? Try to help people. And going back to the question, like, so it's about taking more responsibility and try not to be fired. To be honest, I'm like, unless your manager isn't really a good manager, right? And you honestly offered help, right? It doesn't mean that if you fail, you're going to be fired, right? Uh, because I believe you said that, hey, I don't have huge expertise here, right? But like, you're kind of, we are kind of in a bad situation here, and I want to try to help, right? And if you succeed, then it's perfect, right? If you fail, I mean, you already been there, right? I mean, the team and the project, right? So nothing really changed. So I hope it answers the question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. All right. I don't see any other questions right now, but I do think that we might have some later on once guys actually revisit the recording or think twice about your speech because it really had a lot of like details, a lot of like tricky takeaways. So thank you very much for that. And yeah, back to the
Thank you.
next session, and yeah, enjoy your triple espresso then. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day. Thank you. Bye.